Good morning. It's time for Two Guys on Sports. I'm Larry Hazer.
I'm Dick Olson. Good morning, Larry.
Morning, Dick. And, let's talk girls basketball first because Neillsville is really piling up the wins in the Eastern Quarter Belt.
Yeah, they're
81 in a row.
I believe they're 10-0 now.
Yeah, 10-0 in the conference.
Yeah, and 2-game lead with 4 games to go. So looking pretty good as the Eastern champion. Ranked 6th, had a nice win over Loyal the other night. Another great game for Sydney Subligate, by the way.
Yeah,
so
26 points.
Yeah, so
piling up more threes.
Yeah, she's and sitting second. Yeah,
second in the 3-point challenge.
So and she's holding that pretty steady. I guess the big thing there is you hope she doesn't have to use it because if she doesn't, that means they went to state. So
right, that's right. 16-1 overall are the Warriors now, and 10-0 as you mentioned in the conference, and they have Gilman on Friday at Gilman. But then the big one comes up on Monday night. And they have aligned themselves with a very tough non-conference schedule. The game against Mosinee, the makeup game last Saturday night, was a great game, 55-52. Mosinee may not have the record of Mosinee teams in the past, but a lot of good young players. The Jerschley sisters are very impressive at Mosinee. But anyway, they are going to go up against D5 number 2 Assumption, and that will be here in Neillsville. And, of course, Neillsville D4 number 6 this week. So. Yeah, that should be an interesting matchup there with those two teams, both tops in their respective conference.
And been playing back and forth every year.
Yeah.
So they got a kind of nice little bit of a rivalry there.
Yeah.
Coach Klein down at Assumption does a great job, and it'll be interesting. So
I believe we went over there last year.
Yes, we did.
And Assumption beat them.
Yes. Assumption played very well. They had a tremendous trapping defense.
Yes.
And Neillsville really had a lot of problems with it. I do remember, Matty Davo bringing the ball up left hand and just get trapped on that sideline and just really gave the Warriors fit. But with Paris Opelt shooting, they did make it a pretty good game anyway.
Yeah, they did come back in that one. But they got down a little bit early on. But again, Neillsville, 81 in a row now in the Eastern Quarter Belt. They'll have Gilman on Friday, and then the big one against Assumption coming up on Monday.
Going to be a big week at the Fieldhouse next week. There's a couple other pretty good games too. So
let's talk boys basketball.
One other thing I talk about in girls.
Yeah.
I came across this week, Larry.
Okay.
Jim Myers, who is the head coach at Barneveld.
Okay.
For 38 years through 2022, he was the girls coach there and storied background. We talk about Barneveld and Assumption and D5. Yeah. That was back and forth every year. Well, 2 years ago, Jim stepped down as the coach at Barneveld and took over the boys program and coached the boys program in 23 and 24. Now, this last year, he came back to the girls program. So far this season, Barneveld is 12-6. Last Thursday night, they defeated Judah 86-27, and that gave Jim Myers his 711th career victory with the girls basketball program. And that passes Al Goodman at Owen Withy, who had 710.
So he is now the all-time
girls leader in the state of Wisconsin. Okay. So
good for him.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
So that's
wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, he just came back. Yeah, and they're 12-6 on the season this year. They are in the same conference as Albany Monticello, who is number 1 in D5.
Yeah.
And they Tuesday night they really took it on the chin from them. So
not quite the teams he's had in the past.
No, that's right.
All right.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah, so, congratulations to him.
You bet. So.
All right, as I mentioned, boys basketball, a logjam in the Eastern Quarter Belt as Loyal continues to stumble. They've lost 3 in a row now.
The Greyhounds just really having a lot of problems on offense. When they were flying high, they could really depend a lot on Reed Stiglitz and Bryce Deegan. Well, both those guys have struggled from the field, and they are kind of built with their inside guys to rebound, get some rebound points, and not really their big scorers, and that's hurt them. So
right now there's 4 teams tied for first in the Eastern Quarter Belt, and 2 of those teams are going to play tonight at the Fieldhouse as Columbus Catholic takes on Neillsville.
And a Columbus team that is drastically improved since we've seen them in December. They've seemed to figure it out a little bit.
And Neillsville kind of on a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Neillsville's playing their best ball in the conference. It's out of conference. They're not playing that well.
Not doing so well. 0-7 in non-conference games.
But, at the game in Arcadia brought up some real weaknesses and things that they need to really adjust before tonight's game is getting out on those three-point shooters.
Especially in a man-to-man.
Arcadia, 16 three-pointers the other night. I don't know if Carter Wegner expected to have 9 that night,
No.
but many times he was very wide open, and it was pretty easy sight of the basket. So
I should say the man-to-man is what they have to go against.
Yeah.
Offensively,
which
against a man-to-man defense.
That was the second problem
Right.
that needs to be adjusted. They have to, and teams are going to see that on film that they really struggle with man-to-man, and that's what they're going. I would bet my bottom dollar, Larry, they're going to see a lot of that the rest of the way.
All right, so Columbus Catholic and Neillsville tonight. They are 5-2. Owen Withey is 5-2, and Loyal is 5-2, and Spencer has Loyal tonight.
Yes, at Loyal, and that was a very close game the first time around at Spencer. Bryce Deegan won that, I believe, with a basket at the buzzer.
Yes, he did. And Spencer's right behind at 4-3.
Yeah, because you got 4 teams at 5-2, and Spencer at 4-3. So just a real logjam. It's going to be a pretty much exciting month of February here.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And then Tuesday night you turn around, you got Columbus at Owen Withey Tuesday night, and Spencer at Colby, which should be a good game, and then Loyal at Neillsville. So all those teams are going to be playing each other on Tuesday night. So
yeah, the next, as you said, starting tonight and then next week, the standings are going to change.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, somehow we're going to see who wants to take this conference by the throat and hold on to it. So.
Yep. So there you go. That's the Eastern Clorbell Conference. And another conference to look at is the Merriwood Conference South for the boys. And Auburndale now has taken a one-game lead.
One-game lead over Stratford. Auburndale 9-1, Stratford 8-2. Marathon holding in there at 7-3. They've got a back half of the schedule to play, so that could still change. But Auburndale playing very good basketball, but they don't seem to get any love in the ratings. Stratford is still ranked, I believe, number 7.
Yeah.
Auburndale just does not get any love over there. So.
No, and they're 9-1 in the conference and 14-1 overall.
Yeah, I don't know why not, but and it's not like this is the first time that they've ever climbed on this horse. I mean, they've had a hell of a program for a long time.
Yes, they have. Stratford the other night beat Marathon 64-62.
Yes, that was a great game.
Yeah. And, they'll have some games coming up here, as you said, in that back half of the season as well in the Merriwood South. So, wrestling.
I just want to say on the west side, too, that's pretty close, too, over there. You got Bloomer at 5-1, Stanley Boyd at 4-1, and Fall Creek at 4-2. So, so they're pretty close over there, too.
There's a lot of good basketball.
And tonight, Stanley Boyd is at Fall Creek. So
okay, there you go.
That should be a great game.
All right, wrestling. I was just going to mention that this past Saturday there were a number of wrestling tournaments involving area teams. Neillsville Greenwood Loyal went down to Sparta, and they had some good teams down there.
Great teams down there. When you look at Holman first, one of the top D1 schools in the state. Reedsburg, who went to Team State in D1 last year, coached by Neillsville native Rob Bouch, by the way. And Marshfield, who's been to Team State enough, they were third. So just Neillsville Greenwood Loyal coming in 10th out of 17th. Not too bad. Had a lot of kids place, not real high, but a lot of 7s and 8s. But it's also a lot of kids that had never been on a podium before, Larry. Mason Anding hasn't placed too much. He was 7th at 113. Joseph Dahl, he's having
coming
a pretty
along.
good, 8th at 1. And how about Mikey Harris, 8th at 165? So,
sure.
But Hudson Sebastian Opelt, first at 144, 32-2 on the season now.
Yeah, he beat Easton Ledden of Marshfield.
Yes, Easton is not a real bad wrestler. He's
not a pushover.
Not a pushover. And Marshfield had some nice Caleb Dene continuing at 175. I believe he's 36-2 on the season. Jace Frick, interesting 215-pounder, got first over there, and then their heavyweight Brock Karafi doing a great job this year, finished third at 285. So pretty good run, and like you said, Easton Ledden second at 144. So pretty good balance for Marshfield, and they're looking good for the tournaments too. So,
And then you go to that Wausau East Lumberjack Invitational, and boy, they had some good teams there from our area.
You start off at Mineral Point.
Yeah.
Mineral Point is in D3 is one of the top teams every year, and they have some of the best wrestlers in the state. And they were first, Auburndale second, Stratford third, Marathon sixth. So.
I mean, that was almost like a sectional right there.
Absolutely. The way those teams lined, if they were indifferent, that could be a team state right there.
Right.
But very tough. At 106, you had Taylor Underwood, who hasn't lost too much this season. He was third. And then from Marathon, Sawyer Cunninger from Auburndale was fourth. At 113, Blake Underwood first. Carson Weiler from Auburndale second. Trenton Canoyer, I believe. Yeah, Trenton Canoyer was first from Stratford, was at 120. Derek Goddard from Auburndale second. 126. Colin Canoyer, I believe, was third from Stratford. Zach Grassel from Auburndale was second. So
I mean, there's a lot of Auburndale Stratford marathon names all the way down the line.
Just all the way down, especially in those lower weights.
Yeah.
I said, and then you got Knetter from Stratford, first at 132. And then Colton Weiler, 157. And he is now 40-0 on the season. So
wow,
he just embarrassed.
Now did he move up a weight?
He was at 150.
I was going to
say
say
157. Maybe that was for the day, but
okay.
Yeah, but he's been wrestling the majority of his weights. So I you don't never know about these guys, and in a couple weeks we'll know exactly where they're wrestling.
Right.
And then Carter Luke from Stratford first at 190. And he is 32-1 on the season also. So
okay. All
just
right.
very good wrestling for these guys.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe. You mentioned on the way down to Arcadia that the Marewood has their conference tournament.
Their conference tournament is this weekend, and they have always done that. And to me, I always think they do it for scouting reasons because we would always see Marewood coaches at the Cloverbelt Wrestling Tournament especially if there was a very good team. And the majority, a lot of time, with the Stratford and Athens guys, it was either Loyal or Cadott.
Okay.
Cadott would always be in that same regional and sectional. Yep. So that tournament is being held at Stratford Saturday, and that should be a shootout again between Auburndale, Marathon, and Stratford. So, and if these teams aren't sick of each other, in 2 weeks they will all be in the same regional at Edgar, and they will also bring in Cadott, Glenwood City, and Boyceville.
Wow.
So that should be one heck of a D3 super regional up there.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. And where's that going to be at?
That is at Edgar.
That's at Edgar.
So,
okay. All right.
So a little change of venue there. One other tournament I wanted to bring up this Saturday, Larry. Marshfield is hosting a girls' invitational Saturday.
Okay.
And I think I counted 35 schools going to be there.
Wow.
So that should be one of the premier girls' tournaments, and it's girls only.
Okay.
And that should be one of the premier girls' events in the state of Wisconsin this year, I would think, though.
So you're going to have like the Cadotts there, you think?
I believe Cadott was on the list. I believe so. Yeah, the list was a mile long, and I really didn't feel like writing them down. I should have, but it'll be interesting to see how girls like Ava Gardner do.
Right.
Ava is doing it, and then I forget the other girl. She's
Erica Sleskinow, yep.
From Marshfield. They're both. Ava has a couple losses on her record, but I think those were in boys' events.
Okay.
And Erica is undefeated. So
yeah.
So
and then Izzy Sonnentag, of course, from Cadott.
Bring in and
Anna Becker of Spencer Columbus Catholic.
And I think if I thought right, Badger High School from Lake Geneva is going to be there. And they have one of the premier 132, 138 pounders in the nation in Carly Chesker.
Oh.
So she's...
So Slesnikow could have a competition at 132 then.
Yeah. Chesker's been wrestling 138, but it'd be interesting to see. But, Chesker is one of the best. And she wrestles year-round. She is very, very good wrestler. So,
okay. All right.
Ever since she was a little girl. She was the second coming of Macy Kilty is what she is.
Yeah, there you go.
Always wrestling all the boys and making them look bad.
All right, one more thing before we get into Where Are They Now segment. College wrestling, there's a big one tomorrow night.
Oh, boy.
In the nation as number 1 Penn State takes on number 2 Iowa.
And this will be Stephen Buchanan's stiffest opposition, I feel, on the season because I believe Barr from Penn State is in the top 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah. I think he's 4th.
Yeah, so it will be an interest, and the meet itself is going to be a slam banger. But I'll tell you what, the meet last weekend against Ohio State almost didn't go Iowa's way. So, Ohio State really gave a good account of themselves, and they lost a couple of matches late that if might have turned the tables. You knew at 197 it had a fairly inexperienced 197 pounder, and that Buchanan was going to wipe the mat with, but they lost a couple of matches before that. They didn't think they would, and
okay,
or else they might have had a win. And then they also won by upset at heavyweight too. So it's pretty interesting. Ohio State, pretty good wrestling team. I haven't seen that much, and they were good. So very good. So.
Man, Stephen Buchanan of Loyal, of course, wrestling at 197, ranked number 1 in the nation. And again, Iowa and Penn State, 1 and 2 in the nation, going at each other tomorrow night.
I believe that is 6:00 on the Big Ten Network.
It is on the Big Ten Network.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's on the Friday night. They have a doubleheader of wrestling every Friday night on the Big Ten Network, and it'll be on there
that'll
tomorrow
be a
night.
dandy.
I'm not sure if it's the first or second match, but yeah, it'll be. They are on the Big Ten Network tomorrow night. So.
All right, there you go. Check it out if you can.
Yes,
that'll be a good one.
It's always fun to watch Steven wrestle too.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, where are they now? A little different take on it today. Jason Zaleski of Zaleski Sports had a chance to talk with Daulton Varsho with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Center fielder and Marshfield, Wisconsin hometown hero, Daulton Varsho. Daulton, congratulations. So what a successful season you had last year. Gold Glove winner. When you started this whole thing, where was Gold Glove on your list of things that you wanted to do?
I think as overall, I mean, obviously started out being a catcher and then moving to the outfield, and for the past couple of years being in that nomination part. I think for me to be able to finally win it and just be able to kind of be able to put that patch on my glove, it's pretty cool because there's not a lot of people in that baseball arena to be able to get to that point. And so when you're able to show how much work and dedication it takes to be able to be the top in that position, and obviously it's really cool because you're the only one in that league to be able to get to it. I think it's a pretty cool honor, and obviously the next step is to be able to get to the platinum part. And but I think overall, just seeing all the hard work and stuff I've done over the past couple of years of moving positions from center to right to left, and then finally being the primary spot in center field, I thought it was pretty cool for me to win it this last year.
What is it in you, do you think, that allows you to go look at the lineup card and see, I'm not a catcher anymore, or I'm in right, now I'm here. What is it in you that just says, okay, coach, I'm going to go out here and give you 100% today?
Yeah, I think it's just obviously catching, there's a lot more stuff that goes into it. You obviously have a lot more scouting reports, understanding that. And I think that's what's helped me a little bit, being able to adjust to the outfield and understanding how our pitchers pitch and what they want to do, what they need to get to, and being able to use that to help me get better jumps and stuff like that in the outfield. So whenever I'm penciled in to play outfield, obviously figuring out what ballpark I'm playing at and knowing kind of what walls I need to kind of understand and be able to know which ones I can run into, which ones I can't. But obviously understanding all that, putting that all together, and just kind of having a good plan. And obviously when your name's written in a lineup, it's always a special time.
You left the year with an injury, so just catch us up on that. What's your timeline going forward?
So the doc told me that I could be the opening day DH. Obviously, that kind of goes with understanding day by day of how I progress and kind of get to that point. Obviously, the throwing part's going to be the hardest part, and being able to stretch out my arm, kind of getting back to it, because you're stuck in a sling for 6 weeks, and then it's just like, how do you get the range of motion back and stuff like that. So it was a tough off season for me because obviously I couldn't do a lot of things I love to do, being outside and being outdoors, because obviously at that point for the first 3 months, it's like you don't want to fall and trip on it and kind of brace yourself. So understanding that and kind of knowing that where I'm trying to get to takes a lot of like courage and effort just to kind of sit at home and kind of do nothing and go through your rehab. And who listens to this and going through rehab, it sucks. Like it does. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but it's just how do you push past to that point, knowing that, okay, at the end of this, I'm going to be in a better spot. So I think I've put myself in a good spot to be ready for opening day. And obviously the team will kind of have to decide.
Talking to Gold Glove winner, Toronto Blue Jays, Daulton Varsho. You were able to avoid arbitration. You did get a 1-year deal signed. How do you and your agent see things going forward now with the accolades that you have? Tell us about that side of it.
Yeah, obviously during arbitration, they kind of tell you what their team's going to kind of shoot for, what we're trying to kind of shoot for, and then it's like, how do we meet in the middle technically? So obviously they did a great job, and they kind of helped me out through that whole that process. And obviously every player doesn't want to go to arbitration. Like they don't want to go to a hearing because it's a lot of things that you as a player kind of just don't really want to hear. And I think as part, like the owners and the GMs, they don't want to really say that about the player when they know the person. But I think overall, like they kind of take care of it, and you kind of stay in the back end of it, of like they'll just kind of have good communication throughout the whole day. And usually a lot of the stuff happens on that last day of where you see all the deals and of what guys make in arbitration. So it's kind of a wild time because a lot of stuff gets done within that last hour.
Last year at AL East, a really tough division. It could be said the Toronto Blue Jays were the best, worst placed team in the league. That probably doesn't do a whole lot for you and the guys, though. So talk about the team goals for this season.
Yeah, I think we got to get back on track. Obviously, last year we had a rough stretch with injuries, and obviously trying to get everybody kind of getting back to who they are. We brought in a lot of really good coaches, I think, to help that standpoint, and I think help us push through kind of the offensive parts of things where we weren't good with runners in scoring position, and the homer aspect was kind of down after kind of the renovations. And I think we've brought in a couple really good coaches to help us out, and I think if we can focus in on a team of understanding how to run the bases correctly, play defense like how we've always been able to have, and obviously the pitching has been great the last 2 years. So obviously, if we can push all that stuff kind of out our head and kind of push the media aspect of like not letting it run the clubhouse, I think we're going to be in a better spot.
So let's go back to your high school playing days. Let's talk to some of the kids now around the country, but here in central Wisconsin that have their eyes set on the upcoming baseball season or softball for that matter too on the girls' side. We're about 2 months from the season starting now. So when you were 15, 16 years old, what were some of the things you started to work on with the season about 2 months away?
So obviously, when that kind of happened, 2 months away, I was already kind of hitting, getting ready, throwing a little bit. But I think a lot of it kind of comes down to of like other sports you're playing. I mean, I think as an athlete growing up in high school, I mean, you want to play as many sports as you can because I think when you get so stuck on one sport, it's just one of those things where you kind of get bored and like you stop kind of aspiring to be the best. And so like I think when you're playing other sports and you can combine with having different goals, different ideas, having team games, having individual games, it creates a different type of atmosphere and competitive nature that you kind of can be able to bring out. So for me, football, like I think helped me being able to transition to this outfield portion of my career. So I think playing defensive back helped me be able to do that. So I think there's so many things that you can train that you want to be able to do. But for the baseball part, it's like obviously there's no other sport like hitting a baseball. It's like there's nothing you can do besides keep training that. And obviously, like a lot of people probably don't have facilities that like I grew up with, but it's going into the backyard, going in the basement, playing certain games to try to be able to manipulate yourself to be able to do those things. So when we grew up, it wasn't always just having an actual baseball bat and a baseball. It was a tennis ball and a stick. Let's go play stick ball. And you had one base and the garage door was home. So it's like you play that and it's like it translates. And growing up playing tennis, it's like hand-eye coordination. Can I hit this ball and being able to manipulate it? And now with the game with like pickleball, like what a great skill to be able to play with anybody in your yard. You can play in the basement. You can do so many things with it. And I just think it's certain things where you can do to be able to not really just train for one sport. It's something you can train for all.
All right, that's Jason Zaleski with Zaleski Sports talking with Daulton Varsho, of course, with the Toronto Blue Jays, changing his number this year.
Yeah, going to number 5, and which is kind of neat. Well, first of all, they signed the guy from the Orioles, and he had worn 25 in the past, which has pretty much been Dalton's number in pro baseball.
Right.
But he's switching to number 5, and that just happens to be the last number that his dad, Gary Varsho, wore in professional baseball. So.
Yeah, talked a lot there about the Golden Glove, winning that, and how important that is, and then. Kind of wrapped that interview up. I thought that was pretty neat how he talked about how he used to get ready for high school ball, because now some of these kids are starting to get ready for that.
Yeah, exactly.
And, he said it's important to play all sports.
Yeah,
not just focus on one.
And Daulton did.
Yes, he did.
He played. I think he was a basketball player. Or maybe hockey. I'm not sure. I believe he was a basketball player, but he played football and, of course, baseball. But I always find it interesting him. All the way up through prep baseball, college baseball, and even in early minor, he was a catcher.
Yeah, right.
And he has made himself into a terrific Gold Glove outfield, and not just any outfielder, a center fielder too.
Yeah, and he kind of mentioned that about how catching kind of helped him in the outfield because he kind of knows. The ins and outs of the batters and the pitchers, and where to play people.
I bet it helps because. When you're catching, you have an amazing view of the field.
Right.
And actually, when you're in center field, you have that same amazing view in reverse.
Yeah, yeah.
So it kind of ties the two together, and I just think it just how a kid caught all the way up and became a Golden Glove outfielder.
Yeah.
So, but,
that's
and kudos to the Diamondbacks for figuring that out too, getting him out there too.
Yeah.
Because he came up as a backup catcher.
Maybe you watched Charlie Moore back in the day.
Well, I'll tell you what, Charlie Moore, maybe
not the guy from Columbus Catholic, but back from the Brewer days.
And maybe Charlie Moore from Columbus. I think he was a golfer, though.
Yes.
But Charlie Moore back in the 80s with the Brewers made that switch, and he was a dynamite right fielder. Oh, did he have an arm?
He had an arm.
Yep.
Had a cannon.
Yep. So.
All right. I guess the next big news would be the Super Bowl, of course, coming up. Super Bowl 59. The Chiefs-Bills game, by the way, on CBS was the most watched AFC Championship game ever.
And it was a great game.
It was.
Just a few breaks here and there, and it might be the Bills going to the Super Bowl, but Kansas City, whatever you want to call them, lucky or whatever, they seem to make their breaks and they take advantage of them. So,
yeah, but one of these days we're going to see Josh Allen do what Steve Young did back in the day when he said, "Getting that monkey off his back." Someday
he needs to do it.
Mahomes off his back.
And you can't say it's because Arrowhead, because last year Kansas City did it up in Orchard Park.
Right.
And,
it's
just.
Just can't get over that hump.
I'm a little disappointed about the way the Bills played defense. And so many fourth down plays, they would allow Mahomes to get outside. And he don't run for a lot of yards, Larry, but he runs for enough yards.
Yeah.
And so many plays, he hurt him like that. And I said sooner or later that defensive end or outside linebacker has got to do the L. He's got to contain and turn that in. And they did not do that all night.
They got sucked inside a lot of times.
Very frustrating. Very frustrating. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Right now, I think I saw the Chiefs were favored like 1.5.
Yeah, right now it's hard to say, but I'll tell you what. You look at Philadelphia, and I think we hit the NFC game right on the head. We thought the Commanders could score some points, but could they stop the Eagles? And they did not stop the Eagles. So
no,
I think we hit that one on the head. So.
Yeah, and they had a hard time stopping Saquon Barkley, and we'll see if the Chiefs can.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that offensive line for Philadelphia is probably the best in the league. They're I think their center is hurt, though. They were going with a backup center much of that game. Yep. But, hopefully the 2 weeks and he's back in there. But I thought Hurts played well. He did a great job, much better job passing than he had previously. So, and if he can pass well, that just opens it up more for Barkley. So,
But the old thing is, they're not going against the Commanders.
No, they're not. And I'll tell you what, they're a little dinged up at defensive back. And I'll tell you what, those receivers, Kelsey could have a field day in the middle there. He always does. So it's too early to make a prediction. But
let's see, the Chiefs are going to wear their white jerseys.
Yep.
Eagles are going to wear their midnight green. Yep. And wearing a white jersey in the Super Bowl is pretty good because they've won 37 of the 58 Super Bowls.
Okay. I thought that was interesting. I went back to the Packers' 5 Super Bowls.
Okay.
They wore green 3 times and white twice. They won all 3 in green and were 1-1 in white. So,
okay.
Yeah, Super Bowl 2 they won against the Raiders in white, and then Super Bowl 32 they lost in white to the Denver Broncos. So
okay. All right. So they're not in that group, I guess.
No.
People that are lucky with the 37 or the white jerseys.
Yeah, but you take a team like Dallas, who primarily back in the day they always wore white.
Yep.
Yeah, they wore white. So a team like that is going to shift, and whoever else, it's if there was a majority of white, that would be the big there. So.
All right. Let's see. We got about a minute. A little over a minute.
NCAA basketball, Auburn still on top, number 1, Duke number 2. Marquette sitting at number 9, Badgers at number 17. Badgers at Northwestern Saturday, and they host Indiana Tuesday. Marquette defeated Butler at Butler Tuesday night, so that's a pretty big win in the old venerable Butler Fieldhouse.
Playing pretty well.
Yeah, and then big one, they host UConn Saturday, and then they go to St. John's on Tuesday. So,
okay. All right, and the 100th annual East-West Shrine Bowl takes place tonight in Dallas, where a lot of the, 100 of, over 100 of the best college football players showing off their skills.
I'll tell you what, you get kind of split these guys between the East-West Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the NFL scouts are out big time right now.
Yes, they are. They're looking.
Yeah, and this is where a lot of D2 and D3 guys get a chance to shine because a lot of the D1 guys kind of stay away from these things now. So.
All right, boys basketball tonight. Columbus Catholic at Neilsville, 7:15 on 92.7 WPKG. That'll wrap it up for Two Guys on Sports for this week. I'm Larry Hazer.
I'm Dick Olson.
We'll talk to you again next week.